Hello, welcome back to Asian Cinema Season 2, and in this video, and probably the next two videos, perhaps even three, I will be discussing with you the films and Arrow Academy Blu-ray release, Woman is the Future of Man, and Tale of Cinema, two films by Hong Sang-soo, a South Korean director. And I wanted to try and get some Korean films into this Asian Cinema Season 2, and this was the starting off point for me, which might not have been the best idea. But I blind bought this release and, figured I would dive into the works of Hong Sang-soo, who I know has quite the reputation as a filmmaker in East Asia. And these two films from the mid-2000s, I was intrigued to check out by the synopsises, which I thought were really interesting. So the first video in this video right now, I'm going to be talking about the first film presented in the set, which was released in 2004, Woman is the Future of Man. I can just read you the synopsis on the back. It might do a better job than I have. Woman is the Future of Man tells of two longtime friends, a filmmaker and a teacher, who have had an affair with the same woman, and the friends decide to meet the girl one more time and see what happens. Okay, perhaps not a good synopsis, but then again, I kind of spread out the synopsis through the telling of the story. So let's get into it. We have these two friends who have not seen each other for a number of years. They hung out a lot in their younger kind of years. I would say that when we first see them in the film, they're in their 30s, mid-30s perhaps, if not early 30s. Again, one is a teacher, one is a filmmaker. And when they were younger, perhaps in their late teens, early 20s, they both were interested in the same woman. The filmmaker was involved with the woman, and he left for America, and she was going to wait for him. And while he's gone in America, she ends up getting it on with his friend, the soon-to-be teacher. And it follows this kind of love triangle through an interesting way of chronology. So we open with them seeing each other for the first time in many years and going to a cafe where they drink all afternoon and they reminisce. And as they sit in that cafe, we flash back to the time when they were friends and they were, I wouldn't say together, but, during the heyday of their friendship and also with the romance with this woman. And then after kind of the flashbacks are done with, we come back to the cafe and they decide to go and meet her again after all these years. And they meet her and they go out for some drinks and they go back to her apartment. The following day happens and that's the film. Very broad strokey there. I mean, that's just, that's kind of this, and this. But how it gets painted through is what makes a film, really. I mean, you can have any film and say, okay, a guy does this, woman does this, they go here, they go there, they do this, the end. But how do you do that? How do you tell that? How do you bring those characters to life? And the answer with Hong Sang-soo in this film is in a very unlikable way. I really didn't like this film. I can appreciate it. I can enjoy the fact that the acting is very good. The actor who plays the teacher, a lot of people might recognize him from Old Boy. But he seemed to have gained a little bit of weight for this role, but not too much. Like, just a subtle amount where he seems like a guy who was kind of letting go of his life a little bit. And just, you can feel that he doesn't have a very high opinion of himself. And the way he plays it is just great. And then there's the filmmaker who, from the get-go, I didn't like in terms of the character. And then there's the woman who, the actress is great, but God, I felt so sorry for her. And I'm just going to go through it. So if you haven't seen the film, there's going to be spoilers here. So in the early stages of the film, we follow the woman while she's with the filmmaker, and she comes across this old flame who just appears out of nowhere and has kind of almost ambushed her when she comes back from work. And he's like, I just got out of the military, can we go somewhere? And she's like, no, I've got plans. And he pulls a taxi. He's like, just get in here with me. And he starts berating her. And she kind of cowers, relents, and goes along with him. Next thing we know, she meets with her boyfriend and says, I was raped yesterday. This guy kind of cornered me, took me back to her room and raped me. So the boyfriend, the filmmaker, kind of processes this, takes her back home and washes her in the shower. But as he's washing her, he kind of focuses more on her vagina and just keeps washing that. And she's like, stop, that's enough. But he keeps washing her vagina. Then we cut to them having sex. And as they're having sex, he keeps telling her, I'm cleaning you. You know, this is cleansing you, you know. And that to me is rape as well. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, the film isn't portraying this as a good thing, for sure. Because later on in the film, he's just like racked with guilt over this. But I don't know how you come back from that as a character in a movie. You know, at no point afterwards did I feel sorry for that guy. What he did was grimy, awful, almost horrific. I mean, it's hard when you talk about things like rape. But, you know, if you were to look at two things, the earlier rape, for sure, is worse. But, and again, maybe people wouldn't consider it this way, but I feel like he took advantage of her vulnerable situation there and forced himself on her under the guise of him helping her or cleaning her. And it was just disgusting. And then we have the teacher who, you know, once the filmmaker has moved to America, you can tell that he wants his best friend's girl, and he pursues her. And there's even a point where, you know, it looks like it's going to happen, and he's about to meet her, and she's changed her hair. It's like curly now, and he's so disappointed that she doesn't look the way he wants, you know, when he's about to conquer her, you know, and it's written all over his face, and she's like, oh, you don't like my hair? And he's just kind of like, And then he ends up having sex with her, and he's disappointed, and it's just like it's all the things that are wrong about the way men pursue women, and when they meet her again after all those years, it's implied that she sleeps with the filmmaker again. You know, again, he apologizes profusely. He's very drunk. He's very emotional. He knows what he did was wrong. And she takes him into the bedroom for an undisclosed amount of time. I don't know what happened in that room. Maybe she slept with him. Maybe she didn't. But regardless, she comes out of the room, and the teacher is sat there, a little bit drunk too. And he just goes, oh, give me a blowjob. So she does it. And it's just like this woman who's been through this kind of heartbreak and everything, and this abuse in a sense, and after all these years, life isn't going too well for her, and she just enables these guys again, and to her it's become a normalizing thing, you know. And I couldn't really grasp it as a film that was in any way enjoyable. And not to say that films need to be enjoyable, not to say that films need to have likable characters, not to say that films can't address and deal with these things. And there are good moments in the film. There's a very good moment where the teacher is at a football pitch and he notices his students are there. So he sits down and they're like, oh, come and sit with us. He's like, no, it's okay. I'll sit on the other side. And he kind of puts this scarf around him. And then suddenly he walks over to the other side and he's kind of charming all his students, and they're kind of loving it. They're like fawning over him, and he's like, you know, loving it. And then we cut back and he's fallen asleep on the other side of the pitch, and he's imagining, you know, what life would be like if he was that kind of person. And then he does go out with his students and he gets into this argument and so on. And then his younger student actually comes onto him. They go to a hotel room and she gives him a blowjob. And then that's it, and he still feels miserable, and that's the end of the film. I don't know what you're supposed to learn from this one. I don't know. There's no character for me to latch onto. You know, I wanted things to go better for her, but she's just stuck in a loop again where she's, you know, giving these guys sexual favors again. I don't know, maybe she didn't sleep with the filmmaker again, but regardless, she did enable the teacher. And it's just, and hey, you can look at it as like, well, why shouldn't a woman be free, you know, sexually and all that? That's fine, but just the past history of it all, and how she just finds herself going back to that as a way to kind of just satiate them, I suppose. which just seemed grim and grimy to me, and I didn't enjoy the film. I recognized how it was made well. I just wish the story had gone in a way, but that's the thing. You shouldn't go into a film, well, not go into a film, but you shouldn't leave a film thinking, well, I wish it had gone the way I wanted, because that's the artistic intent. That's the film he wanted to make, and I didn't like it. And I watched the introduction on the Blu-ray. I might do a third video talking about the Blu-ray and the special features, but I want to mention this one in this video. Martin Scorsese does an introduction for this one, and he sings its high praises like it's this, just masterpiece. And yep, not getting it. Really, really not getting it. And it's very superficial, but I liked the locations of the film. I liked the look of everything, and I love the way that there's a moment where the snow is falling, and it kind of, I don't know, that kind of really, it tied into this kind of sense of loss of their youth, and that's what I kind of drew from that. And in general, the second half of the film was kind of them reflecting on the loss of their youth, but ultimately, again, characters that are not very likable. I would argue the teacher there's a little bit more of a redemptive arc in him, but at the same time, he's cheating on his wife. We don't really think about that. He's not happy with his wife, but that doesn't matter. It's just a film about grimy men. And that wasn't very enjoyable or even interesting to me. So, yeah, for me, Woman is the Future of Man was quite the disappointment. Stay tuned for the next video where I'll be talking about Tale of Cinema and see if I enjoyed that one anymore. Thanks for watching. If you've seen the film, please let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans and calling into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.